All right, let's talk about control a little bit, y'all. The reason that everybody's buying all the toilet paper isn't because we're afraid of the end of the world, and it's not even because we think the coronavirus makes you need more toilet paper. It doesn't. It's because we're afraid of the hoarders. It's the prisoner's dilemma, but I don't trust anybody, which is why I need control over everything. Which is why something like this, a pandemic that reminds me that I don't have control, is terrifying. Control is our favorite thing in the world because, well, it lets us pretend that we're God. It lets us pretend that we have a handle on this situation and we don't actually need anybody else. See, if I have enough of your toilet paper, I don't need to go to the grocery store and deal with you anymore. And that just sounds fantastic right about now. The reason that we're so desperate for control, for this idea that life would return back to normalcy, is because it's just easier to pretend that we don't need help. Control is an awful idol to have. And every once in a while, God gives us the gift of taking it away from us and reminding us, even when we think we're in control of things, we're probably not as good at it as we'd like to be. And reminding us not just that, God is in control, but that the God who loves us is in control. Because those are different statements. Just telling somebody God is in control doesn't actually make them feel better most of the time unless you're going to tell them who their God is. Just saying God is in control really only says, okay, so how do I get God to do what I want so that I can still be in control even though he's the one actually pulling the lever? Like, how do I pray hard enough to make God do the thing that I want? How do I behave well enough, good enough to make God give me the things that I want as a reward? How do I earn this thing? How do I justify myself? How do I fix this? Even if God is the one doing it, I want to be in control by my works, by my effort, by my emotion, by something. Give me something to do. And God says practice social distancing. Breathe. Relax. It's not just that God is in control. It's who your God is. This is the thing that we struggle with when it comes to control. Is when it comes to control, we still want to ask what and why and how. And God only responds with who. It's not what. What can you do to somehow make yourself in control even though God's in control? Or how do you do it? Or even why is this happening? Ask a simpler question. Who is your God? Who answers all of these things? Yours is the God that entered into this creation to care for you by bearing your sins upon the cross. Yours is the God who would not flee from pain or worry or doubt or even a lack of control, but submitted himself to all of the results of the fall, of the fear, of the lack of control, of the pain, of the suffering, of the unknown. All of these things Jesus submits himself to for you. He had no control because he must have stayed on that cross for you. He had to stay up there to atone for the sins of all the world. We don't have the God who flees from bad things. We have the God who's actually willing to hurt to save you. And so if we have a God who's even willing to bear the cross to save you, we have a God who can work in the midst of lack and in the midst of want and in the midst of suffering. We have a God who actually produced your salvation out of the absence of all of these things. And so whether or not you're in control and whether or not there's toilet paper on the shelves, not just your God is in control, but the God who bore the cross for you, died for you, and rose again, he is still exercising his authority over the world to not only forgive you your sins, but to strengthen you and keep you in the one true faith and draw you closer into life everlasting one day at a time. In the midst of so much unknown, stop trying to control it. Stop even trying to figure out why. Just ask who. Who is your God? And it makes everything else a lot simpler. Yours is the God who died and rose. Be at peace.